Where's my spoon?
We're so weird.
Give me my spoon.
We're so weird.
That guy from that video? When you have a spider on you?
What a show. Guys, that was really
That was
great.
a great
I really
show.
enjoyed that.
By
Thank
the way, we
you.
still have Mike from
Yes, we do.
NanoRex
Can we,
on the
Well,
line.
let's get the
let's
TV.
wheel Mike back out here.
Mike, come on over.
Mike is getting Mike. So,
You're in
Wait,
my
wait.
you're in
Let
my
me get
normal
the cord.
spots.
Mike's
And,
all
All right.
right.
Oh, sorry.
I feel like I'm going to have to designate Space Mike and NanoRex Mike.
Yeah.
And I think NanoRex Mike, you might be confused, but here you
Nano
are.
Mike.
We're wheeling you in.
Literally
Here
wheeling
he
in the
comes.
guest.
Isn't he lovely?
Sorry, like that for me. There we go.
Aha.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it look pretty because I.
It's okay. Was that too bumpy? Was that all right?
Are you okay?
Wait, how am I going to get back in my chair?
I'm good there, I think.
Wait.
It's
Here, I'll come
seeing
over here.
myself.
All right. Do
I'll
we have
sit
enough
on the
room?
edge.
Okay.
Mike Inception.
Mike,
right.
Mike.
Mike.
Doctor?
Well done, guys. That was exciting.
Yeah.
Good.
It's
That was
fun.
really that was effortless. Thank you, Jared. Well done.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. This was super awesome, and I was already psyched about talking to you guys because we've seen a lot of the work that you do. So this was great to kind of bring that to people's attention. So
Mike, were you at the SmallSat conference?
Where at?
Did you go to SmallSat this year?
Is your mic on?
I didn't go. No, I sent Connor and Henry and Ajith, those guys.
Yeah,
You may-
I met a few of the
They had
NanoRex
that room
people.
around the back corner kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I big timed it. I just didn't go. I love it. That's concert ever.
Delegated.
Not concert, conference, yeah.
Really excited that the airlock has made so much progress and that you guys are going to be able to launch that next year.
It is terrifying because it's like half the company working on it, and so it's just a huge resource thing. But it's going good, which is fantastic.
And it was really that easy to get access to that port.
So it's nuts. So the story that I don't want to tell, like on on TV, was that the reason we did this was actually because
We are still.
I was actually pissed off about the fact that we couldn't use the Japanese.
hey,
Mike,
Mike, just
Just so you know, we are still live right now. This is the After Dark section. It does get posted
great.
later, though.
Well,
so.
then perfect. So I'm okay saying pissed off, right?
Oh yeah. just in case you,
Ooh.
just wanted you to know,
Not
in
the
case
P
you didn't
word.
want to tell the.
Yeah, no. So it was such a resource that was in high demand, and everybody just wanted airlock cycles, and we just weren't getting all the ones we wanted, and so kind of, in a fit of anger, we threw our hands up and said, fine, we'll make our own airlock, and didn't think anybody was actually going to call our bluff, and so everybody kind of jumped in and said, that's a good idea. Why don't you do that? And I'm like, okay, we'll do it. And so we designed it, patented it, did all this other stuff. Still, I didn't really think we were going to have to do it. And then it became real. So luckily there's enough need for it and for the Japanese one too. So we're not stealing the business or anything, but it was a decision based in anger, unfortunately.
Oh, jeez.
Those are always
Yeah,
the
sorry
best
about that.
decisions.
I mean,
And that's going to be
Yeah.
right the port opposite of the cupola module. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a no, I think it's a three port. So it's right next to the cupola.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
cupola and the beam.
it'll actually be
is
right
now.
next to Bigelow, and then that's where ARED is, the Advanced Resistive Exercise Device.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Now, the space stations, are you guys calling them wet workshops or?
So back in the day, von Braun called them wet laboratories or wet stations, and that's because they at one point had rocket fuel in them. Obviously you can't use the hypergalls or anything like that, but these tanks with oxygen and hydrogen in them, once you vent it out, you can use it. Humans can be in there safely. So he coined the term wet workshop, and we refer to that quite a bit.
And is the name that I saw for this is Ixion, right? Is that how you pronounce that? Are you still going with that name?
So one thing at NanoRex that we're not good at all is names. So obviously NanoRex in itself is kind of an odd name, right? I don't know, but it sticks. So Ixion, I encourage everybody to not look up what Ixion is.
Uh-oh, too late.
Perfect.
To the internet.
Suddenly the Wikipedia page gets a huge hit. So in mythology, it's the father of the centaur, right?
Ooh.
And so the base, that makes sense. It's a centaur rock and all this stuff. But if you think about what the centaur is, it's a half horse, and the Ixion was not any part horse. Whoa. So it's not a great thing to name something after. So we've abandoned the name, and we're calling them outposts because that's what they are. And the first one's gonna be called Independence 1, and that's that'll be our first free flyer, and a little more traditional space names rather than people that love horses.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. Wasn't there like thunder attributes attributed to Ixion or something like that too in mythology?
Yeah, if you read the story in mythology, he turned. There was some deception involved, where they turned the horse into a cloud and all that stuff, and really, again, I highly discourage everybody from looking up that story.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I remember seeing that when you guys put that out, and it was just like, what are they going for with this? But then, yeah, seeing the centaur connection.
There's a company that's also looking at commercializing aerospace called Axiom.
Axiom, yeah.
And of course, Ixion was just confusing for that as well. And so we've abandoned that name. They're called Outposts, and that's what they're going to be called.
Now, a lot of the designs I've seen just have a pressurized module at the top of the interstage. Are you guys going to be reconverting the entire upper stage, or just that pressurized volume that you've designed?
So actually in this next phase of the study, that's what we're looking at, is what can we actually use? The study, quite honestly, may conclude that it makes sense to just build a space station from scratch. That's one of the risks of the study. But we're looking at the options, and you're right. There's one where we use a small section above the tank to outfit it that would provide kind of propulsion and basic power and ADCS type applications. But then there's the rest of the study where we're looking at robotically outfitting it, putting hatches in there, we're working with Paragon, who has these semi-rigid inflatable textile structures to outfit the inside. There's a lot of trade space there to be explored.
I even saw one that had additional docking ports, almost like it was like a docking node.
Yeah, well, we've pitched that idea to a number of people. Right now there's only one node left on the ISS, and there's a lot of people that want it. Us, Axiom, Bigelow, to name a few, and we think that there's enough commercial interest and other interest to have more than one node access there. So that's a concept that we're including in this trade space. Is every time we take a port, we add a port or more.
I really like that.
That's a good idea.
Like that.
Yeah.
And since it sounds like you're a fan of the gateway, are you going to try to push any of the Independence or the airlock or any other hardware for the Lunar Gateway?
Yeah, so we got a number of things going on, and you'll see some news in the coming months about our involvement with the gateway. We've identified a couple aspects of the gateway that are really interesting to us. We have this satellite deployment thing that we do, and we have this the exposure module that we do, kind of a hosted platform suite. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of opportunities on all these components, the PPE, the HABs, everything like that, as they go out to the lunar orbit. There's a lot of opportunity to do some other science, and that's where we're looking. Right now there's the Esprit module, which is a European designated module for the gateway that has a science airlock on it. Mm-hmm. And that's eventually going to come online. And we think that that there might be an opportunity ahead of that or complementary to that to also include the science airlock that we make.
That's so cool. How much was your guys' contract worth through the Next Step program?
That's a good question. I think I want to say more than less than $20 million. I don't know. I hired a team to deal with it.
I thought it was around 10, but I couldn't remember, so I thought I'd ask. Sorry,
Yeah,
I've been asking all of my questions. We should ask questions from the chat room.
Mike.
Sorry.
I'll get it.
This is the Mike and Mike show.
This is what
Realize
happens
it.
when he's not in his hologram state.
Yeah.
Are you actually Hanny's Warwarp? Is that in Tubles or Tabbles or who is
No.
it today?
Trebles?
Trebles, yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
Are you sure?
Nope, not me.
Okay.
After the second really good question from Trebles, I was like, you know what? I should have been logged in asking myself questions.
There we go.
Oh man, there we go.
Oh my goodness.
I
Not asking
actually
the right
know your
questions.
guest next week, and I'm gonna send him a little tip. Like, hey, if you start getting tough questions.
No, so you rig the game. You log in and ask him tough questions.
Oh yeah,
There
take
you
that,
go.
Chris.
There you go.
You're the one that will
is
be asking the hard
happening?
questions.
It's just some dual sabotage
Our
here.
show is rigged now. No.
Well, that's good, right? You've arrived. Like that's a good sign.
Your username should be Racked with Mike or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Mike Rex.
Racking with
Interax,
rack
it's,
face.
originally the company was going to be named Bonsai, which I think is a wonderful name for a company, especially one that deals with smaller experiments. And I thought it was really pleasant, but now we went with Nanorax, which is just
I mean, it makes sense once you look up what you guys do, and you're just like, oh, okay, they're deploying nano satellites from these racks, and they have these rack payloads for inside and outside the payload. So it makes sense, but you do have to look it up first.
You do, and then it doesn't make sense when it's like, oh, who made that space station? Who made that private space station? You're like, Nanorex. Like, oh, that's a dumb name. Hey, not to harp on dumb names or anything, but you showed a picture of one of our satellite deployments, and it's the 2x3U form factor.
The 6 unit.
Traditional CubeSat is a 1U by 1U kind of thing, and just when we were designing the deployer, I had the CAD model and everything like that. What's the name going to be? And I jokingly called it the double wide. Yeah, there's the picture.
The double wide.
The double wide. And you know what? Sure as can be, that became the operational nomenclature, the OPNOM. And now everybody calls it the darn double wide. It's like, you got to be really careful with what you name stuff. Complimentary to that. I designed another deployer that can host one that's twice as tall, and it's called the Tall Boy. And that's stuck.
there you
Ooh,
go.
Cheers.
Right?
Yeah, cheers.
Oh,
That's cool.
That's a lesson to the listeners and to the audience out there. Be real careful what you call your stuff.
Nah.
yeah.
Or just go for it.
Let's
What
see.
is this question? There's a question from Twicked in the chat room. I don't know if you can even answer this. Have you ever calculated the price to play a single game of Tetris with CubeSats on the ISS?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's think. Each piece of Tetris, each Tetris piece has 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you could
it
have
would
like a
be the
3
equivalent
by
4U
1.
satellite, and we do actually have standard pricing. So so our company is on what's called the GSA, the Government Services Agreement, and so we have a standard price for CubeSats, and we also have a NASA shopping list. So I could actually figure that out. So have whoever that is shoot me an email. I'll figure it out.
That's amazing.
There's a CubeSat out of Cornell University that's going to be launching on the first SLS launch. The name escapes me at the moment, but it's actually 2 CubeSats that are going to split apart, and each one is 3 units on one side, and then it has an additional 1 unit strapped in, so it looks like those L brackets from Tetris. So, yeah,
Wow.
we could
Yeah,
make
one
this
of
happen.
one of the first satellites that I was a part of was one called MAST, and it was similar. It was a 3U thing, and once on orbit, it separated. These 2 separated, and there was a guy that went back and forth in between. It was a tethered experiment, and that would be you could easily just put hinges and stuff like that. There's a call out to the eccentric billionaires out there who want to play Tetris in space.
Yeah.
Oh my
We
goodness.
can make it happen.
Oh boy.
But you could frame it around actually doing science, right? You could be like, this is a docking experiment, and we have to
Yeah,
dock all the
yeah,
Tetris
yeah.
CubeSats together.
And you could even do it simply,
Actually,
like
that-
with magnets or something like that, so it's
Yeah.
all passive docking.
Yeah, that sounds good.
There's actually a lot of work being done with that. Yeah, docking is much more complicated than it sounds. There's a number of agencies doing things like that, and the Spheres experiment on station, based out of MIT. That's a lot of their experimentation's doing that. We're flying a NASA satellite off the NG-11 flight that's doing something very similar. Also doing inspection and then the first stages of docking. So Tetris set, it might have some legit science.
Yeah. And for those, NG-11 is in reference to Northrop Grumman's commercial cargo flights, the 11th flight of the Cygnus. So.
Yeah, thanks, Space Mike. I kept stumbling on that because
We like to call it Orbital
just-
ATK, a space division of Northrop Grumman.
Gotcha. We've just gotten used to adding the ATK to everything, and they've
Right.
changed it up.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a couple
good
other
people.
questions that we have here in the chat room. Let's see. From CFIT, they're asking, what completely new skills have you had to learn as a company to deal with airlocks? Any real surprises?
Oh, definitely. So up until the airlock, a lot of our experiments are just that. They're experiments. This is a piece of legitimate space structure. We've built deployers, we've built things that are safety critical, but this is a whole nother world. We've had to learn how to connect this docking mechanism to the space station, and there's power, there's fluids, there's all kinds of things that go back and forth. Interestingly, one of the things we had to learn a lot about was they built a model for the neutral buoyancy lab for the NBL of our airlock, and we've had to learn to work with the flight operations directorate, the FOD folks, to make sure that the astronauts, when they're training to interact with this, are actually interacting in the way that we have envisioned. So that's been a really fun surprise.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there pictures of that that are publicly
There
available?
are, yeah, and if they might be public. If they're not, we can. If they are, we can chase them down and get them to you guys.
I would love to see that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
it's super
exciting.
fun.
Cool.
Good question too.
Let's see. Just another question that I have. What's your guys' timeline for your outposts and the first Independence module? I mean, I'm assuming you guys are still in the design phase right now, right?
Yeah, design phase. Originally, we were wondering if we could actually do a flight demo in this next phase, but we're seeing that there's a lot of things that have to be overcome for that. So what we're going to do in this next, it's about 18 to 20 month time period. Is we're gonna do all the ground demonstration units. So actually, your guest last week, Dave Maston, we're working with them. They have the Centaur tank that they're actually bringing to us. I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago. The group that you interviewed, Justin Kugler from Made in Space, we're working with them to explore fabrication type applications for it, and among many other companies that that I've kind of mentioned, SSL, MDA, Altia Space Machines, Paragon, all these guys. So that's the next about year and a half plus is going to be that, and then assuming there's a follow-on after that, we could go to flight pretty soon after that, within a couple years.
Wow. So pursuing that kind of makes you a competitor with Bigelow Aerospace. Do you guys have any sort of relationship with Bigelow prior to announcing these outposts?
Yeah, we do. So Bigelow's done some incredible stuff, and I'm just a huge fan. The beam module is groundbreaking in a number of ways. It dipped a toe into this commercialization of space platforms. Also, it's a hugely successful technology. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to use some of the stuff that they developed to help in our airlock. for one, there's a lot of thermal analysis and structural analysis that has to happen, and it's pretty close there, right? We're 90 degrees off of them, so we're able to use a lot of the same shadowing models and things like that were developed for them, by NASA. Second, we were able to use the same SpaceX flight support equipment. So our vehicle, our airlock is going up in what's called the trunk of the Dragon. It's the unpressurized back volume, and that's the way the beam went up. So we're able to already, because of the work that Beam did with SpaceX under the guidance of NASA, we were able to take advantage of that and know what sort of input loads we need to design to, what sort of grappling and things that we need, what sort of tool path determination had to happen.
Wow.
Very valuable.
Wow. So cool. So cool. I can't wait.
All right, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting hungry.
Starving.
Hungry and tired, eh?
Are we?
It's 2 hours later
Wrapping?
here. I'm starving.
Let's go eat.
Yeah,
Come on
right.
out with us.
Yeah, just pop through the TV screen. We'll take you to lunch. Take
We'll
you to
bring the
Disney.
screen.
It'll be great. But yeah, Mike, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday. Go and get some food. We'll get some food. Yeah, it's been a great week. So thank you
Guys,
so
I really
much.
appreciate
Very
it. Thank
insightful.
you again for the opportunity. So yeah,
Thank
Jay,
you.
Lisa, Base Mike, Jared, wonderful interview. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you so much for
really,
coming on.
all the plants I put on YouTube and Twitch and everything asked some really great questions, I guess. All right, signing off from Houston. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Wonderful
Thank
day,
you.
and
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
thank you very much.
And goodbye to everyone still watching. This is the end of After Dark. See you next week.
See ya.
This is the end.
Bye. Bye.